This is the Humans of Gaming podcast, an open and honest conversation about games, life, and belief.
Welcome back to the show. This is Jonathan Clausen, your producer for Humans of Gaming and the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. This week, we're taking a quick break from our 10-episode series featuring women in different roles in the gaming industry, since Drew was at PAX East in Boston, checking out some of the amazing projects currently in development. In this episode, Drew interviews a diverse group of developers and content creators, including YouTube gaming comedian Lauren Z. Side, designer Lindsay Rostel, and documentary filmmaker Philip Shane, who is currently producing the Mist documentary. We hope you enjoy this little one-off episode that we think embodies the diversity that Humans of Gaming is searching to feature on a regular basis. These are all great people doing great work, and we're proud to have them on our show. So please enjoy the interviews.
Drew Dixon here with Love Thy Nerd, and I'm here with Lauren Z-Side. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a YouTuber, I guess would be the best term. I've been doing YouTube for about 7 years now, and I do all different types of gaming content.
You like a veteran in the YouTube world. Like, if you've been doing it for 7 years, you're like a pro.
Yeah, so like I started because I actually started when I found out that people were doing gaming content on YouTube. Yeah. I was like, there's not that many girls. I think there was like 2 that I found who I'm actually now friends with, but I was just like, there's nobody there's not many people. I was like, I'll try this. So kinda I was one of the early like female gamers on there. Now there's tons, which is awesome. Yeah.
What was that like, being kind of one of the first women to break into that space? And it was both cool and like kinda it's funny, I know there's like this like stigma with girls in the industry that they have it harder and stuff. I've always found that it kinda not made things easy at all, but like I don't know, there was not that many people there for girls that were growing up wanting gaming. So it was cool to be like one of the first people filling that void because when I was growing up, I loved video games and it was kind of like a weird thing for girls to like, and now it's like cool, and girls, like so many girls play video games and are into tech and stuff. So it was cool being like one of the early people to kind of shape that, and absolutely.
Now it's so mainstream that I've always felt kind of accepted because there were so many girls looking for that in the community, and basically the gaming community's been super nice in general. Like,
well, I imagine you've probably inspired a lot of women to get out there and produce content and you know, do things that they wouldn't have thought maybe there was a space for.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I even know there's a bunch of people that were out around the same time as me or came out after making content, and they're either surpassed me or like at the same level. And it's just awesome, like all of us kind of grew up in the space at the same time, and opened it up for like people to feel like it's okay to be a girl in game and it's not a stigma anymore, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. What makes your channel unique? Like, what if you're saying, hey, you should come check out my channel because you'll find this here? So
my like mantra, I guess, was always trying to make games ridiculous or play in a way that not many people play it. So one of my bigger breaks was I started playing The Sims, and everybody around that time was playing The Sims normally. Like, you'd have a family, maybe you'd kill them off for fun or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, what if I...
in the swimming pool or whatever.
Yeah. But instead of playing like that, I'd be like, all right, what if I imported, like at the time, Five Nights at Freddy's was a huge game. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to make that into The Sims. And people were like, how? Like, what? And I was like, I'm going to make it work. And then
figured it out.
Yeah, and people like loved it because it was something that nobody else was doing at the time. So that's even still like 7 years later, I'm finding games that I can like make it my own. So even a lot of like sandbox games and things like that it's kind of open for you to interpret. However, that's probably where I shine the most, when I can like make a game really weird and interesting and play it in a way that nobody else does.
Yeah. So a lot of comedy on your channel.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you had to narrow it down to one thing, what do you hope people gain from their experience on your channel? Like, what do you hope they get out of their time, watching your videos?
I guess realizing it's fine to be weird and terrible at video games, but still be in the community. Like, right. I'm awful. Like, I think people expect, they're like, oh, you're a gamer, you're in the gaming community. Like,
yeah, you must be awesome.
Yeah, they're like, do you stream? Do you play, like, a lot of first-person shooter stuff? It's like, no, I'm kind of like in a different category, right. But I would still say I'm part of the gaming community. Yeah. So I guess, that it's okay to be part of the gaming community, but not be, like, specifically good at a game. Like, but a lot of time people come there because they see me as that like weird girl. I kind of like try to get an audience that I was growing up, so I was like weird, awkward, like
Same
now
way.
I've gotten I've gotten much better because I have to do things like this now and stuff.
I think we don't want to admit it, but we all are at least some point in our life, and maybe for huge chunks of our lives, are that weird, awkward person.
Oh yeah, and that's super relatable. And I feel like that's where gamers kind of connect the most too, because you're like, the majority of you are like, oh, I was weird and awkward. You're like, me too, and that's why I played video games. I'm so.
And I also appreciate that approach of like not having to be super good, or like you having a channel that invites people in who aren't amazing gamers. I'm a dad. I have 3 kids, and so like my time to game and like to be really good at a game now, and plus I'm getting older, and I feel like my reflexes aren't what they used to be.
Yeah, right.
And so like the time it would take for me to get really good at a game just sometimes is not worth it. You know?
Same.
And
whenever I'm at events like this, I'm like, that'd be great. Like there's some girl streaming that she was like awesome at Counter-Strike. I was like, I wish like people would be like, wow, she's so good. Like I want to be like her someday. I'm like, no, whenever they invite me to competitions, I'm always like, I'm going to be terrible, right? Like, I'm not good. Nobody wants me on their team. If you want to laugh, put me on your team. But, if you want to win, do not put me on.
I love it.
But same, you can't compete with, like, the teenagers that have all day, like I used to when I was younger, to, like, perfect a game.
Yeah. And, I know your channel's kind of, like, blown up. Like, you have over 3 million subscribers. What's that experience like?
It's still weird. It's like I'd say maybe within the past, I only started doing it full time. It'll be 3 years this summer that we did full time. But I started like 7 years ago, so there was a big time period where it was just like a side hobby and fun. But now it's weird. Like even my whole family is like super on board now, but it was super weird in the beginning. We'd go to like Disney World or conventions or like just walking around. Like I went to a restaurant for my brother's birthday and some fan came up to us at the table and my whole family was like, what is happening? So it's been super weird. I still don't see it as that. Like people like will say, oh, you're the only famous person I know or something. I'm like, I don't know. No, I'm not that. Like, no, I play video games and that's it. And like, I'm in my house a lot. But it's been very cool, but very weird. Like, I don't know if that weirdness ever goes away, but like.
Is it harder or easier now that you're able to do it full time? Because I know, like, I'm sure when you were doing it part time, it's like, gosh, this is all my free time.
Yeah,
probably hard to rest.
It's harder and easier at the same time. So it's easier in that I have all the time I need to do it, but I use all that time to do it. Like, at least when I had an office job, I would leave and I would separate myself from that world for a little bit and do something else, and then come back and it would be like exciting. Now it's like all I do, so then I have to try and try not to get burnt out, try to have other interests and hobbies that aren't like work.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's definitely easier to like craft exactly what I want on YouTube, whereas when I had a regular job, I'd be like, I only have 4 hours. What could I film and edit in that time that would be good? Now it's like, I have all day. I can do whatever I need to do today.
Yeah. Do you have to force yourself with your work to rest sometimes? Like, is that difficult for you? Yeah.
I think I'm a workaholic by nature anyway. Like, I've always had jobs where like 12-hour shifts and like I've always been like that. So especially now that it's like also my passion, it's hard to stop myself. So that's why we just moved to a new house and like our whole basement is basically our office. So I've tried to like be good at when I'm downstairs and working, but I have to make it a point to go upstairs like after dinner time and have like a normal night.
Definitely. That's cool. Last question I like to ask people in the games industry is, why do you do the work that you do? What motivates you?
I guess maybe going back to that same, like just trying. The original thing was making sure girls had somebody to look up to in the gaming industry. But now I feel like there's so many and like it's so much more mainstream. Mine now is probably just trying to show that like girls can be funny playing games. Or even just not the girl aspect, like there's funny gamers.
Yeah.
There's, like, and try to eventually take the girl part out of it and just be like.
Yeah, I dig that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, it's great talking to you. I
Yeah,
love the
you
work that
too.
you do, and I know our listeners will be excited to check it out. So they wanted to subscribe to your channel. Go to YouTube. and search-
YouTube search Lauren Z side. So
Great.
yep, or just Lauren Z and I'll
Yeah.
pop up.
And Twitter. Anything else you would want to plug?
Same thing. Lauren Z side across
Great.
the board. I got lucky. I got in early on all
Nice.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Lauren.
Yeah,
Great talking
thank
to
you.
Drew Dixon here at PAX East with Astrid, and your last name?
Refstrup,
Okay. And you are from where?
Copenhagen, Denmark.
Okay. And your game is Unglet?
Ynglet.
Yeah. It's really hard to say, but fun to say, I think.
It's fun to say, yeah. And it's also a fun game. And all of Nifless's game have these very weird names that is hard to pronounce if you are not from north of Sweden.
Yeah. So, and tell us a little bit about the game, what makes it unique.
So Ynglet is you're a little. We call it a space dolphin. Or Nifless says it's feeling like a space dolphin. So you're a little creature, and you're swimming around in this non-platformer world. So at first the game might seem a bit like a platformer when you play it, but there's really no platforms. And the unique thing, from my point of view, is that you can always create, or most of the time create a save point. So if you are a more casual player, you can most certainly enjoy Ynglet. And if you are hardcore player, that gamer that wants the game to like speedrun it and really challenge yourself, see how fast you can do it, you will also have a lot of fun with the game.
Yeah. What do you hope players get out of their experience playing the game? If you had to sort of narrow it down to one thing, what do you hope players, get out of their time with the game?
It's really a thing for Nifless to answer, I think. But I think Nifless want people to feel one with the world, enjoy the algorithmic music that he had created for the game. He cares a lot about the music, but also the visuals that he have created together with Sarah, and the overall like puzzle elements and fun like platformers where the mechanics keep challenging you and changing, and if the game just taught you one thing, it's gonna do the opposite in the next level, and I think he wants people to enjoy that. He wants people to enjoy that.
Yeah. Seems like a lot of his games have sort of they don't teach you with this really upfront tutorial, but it's all about sort of exploration and testing the world in a way.
Nifless is really good at doing like Q&A, get other people to play his games and look at it and design the game so it like really cater for the player. And I don't think that he would ever do like, hey, welcome to my game. First of all, you do this and this and that, like with buttons on the screen.
Sort of takes you out of the experience.
Yeah, like what I could do maybe in our other games. So he wants the learning experience of the game to be seamlessly, and I think already now with what he have created for Ynglet, it already works that way.
Yeah, that's great. And what's your role on the team?
So I am the producer. So Nifless creates the game. Sarah helps a bit with the visuals, so she's like it's based on her hand drawings, and I do all the boring stuff. So I go to PAX. Oh, that's actually fun. But I get to make sure that we have all the funding we need for the game, that we are doing the right kind of marketing, and all of those things.
Yeah. Those really important things that sometimes game designers don't like to think about.
Yeah, I think Nifless hate thinking about it, and I love thinking about it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. What drives you to partner with guys like Nifless and to make these types of games that are really kind of I think some people would say kind of out there. It's really different.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing really like this.
No.
Yeah.
So first time I met Nifless, I was completely starstruck. I love the things he's created, and I'm really honored that we get to work with him every day in triple topping. So he sits at our office and work from there. And I think what's so unique about games is that there's as many games as there's people. Yeah. And he's a really brilliant mind, and he cares a lot about the people that will play his games. He thinks a lot about the people who play his games. And working with someone that is so passionate about the things they design, it's just very inspiring. I care a lot about the other games we make as well, but I think Nicholas goes to lengths that very few, even very passionate indie designers do. So it's a huge inspiration to have someone like him on our team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you were telling me earlier, we were trying to meet up here at PAX, and you sent me a text, and you said, just look for the person with the Yinglet tattoo. So you even have a tattoo of this game, which our listeners won't be able to see, but yeah.
Yeah, Nicholas also have one. I also have tattoos of the other games we have made.
Yeah.
They are under the sleeves right now because it's cold here in Boston.
Yeah.
But English is on the top of my left hand. Nicholas has it on his arm. I was a bit more bold. Yeah, it's a very beautiful game, so why not put it on your hand?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, that's a sign of your belief in this game. That's great. That's fantastic.
Definitely.
Well, thanks so much, Astrid, for your time.
You're welcome.
It's a beautiful game, really lovely to play. The music is also a real delight to the senses, I think. And so I'm excited to check. When can we expect to maybe get our hands on this?
I have this really boring later this year, but definitely this year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, we'll definitely keep our eyes out for it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So, Conrad, what is your role with Liberated?
Well, we're an indie studio and an indie publisher, so it's a lot of community stuff, a lot of PR stuff, being here, helping with project management during development. For example, a while back I was helping out with redoing all of the dialogues in our game because we needed to bring somebody new on board and so just, whatever needs doing.
Yeah. What's your last name?
Vaukuski.
Okay.
Good luck.
I'm just gonna go with how you said it. I'm gonna just pretend like I said it exactly like you did.
All right, I will.
And you're from Poland?
I'm from Poland. I'm here with the Indie Games Poland Foundation, so all of us here are basically Poland.
Yeah. And there's a really vibrant indie game scene in Poland, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's ridiculous, actually. It all started with CD Projekt, right? And then all these people suddenly they're leaving and starting their own companies, and now we have this ridiculously varied and blooming industry. It's super cool.
Yeah. So how long have you been making games?
Well, this is actually my first game dev gig. Before that, I used to work at GOG.com, so I was close to the it was in gaming, but I wasn't actually part of creating something new.
Yeah.
So this is my first one.
Yeah, is that exciting for you?
It's really cool. I mean, there's a lot to do, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot happening. But I think it's really exciting. And I've learned so much, because before that I was just we had games. Our job was basically there were these games, right, and we had to figure out what's cool about them, and just it was kind of fire and forget, and it was just all these games coming through. And here I'm I know everything about this game.
Yeah.
So the good stuff and the bad stuff, all of it.
Yeah. So tell me about Liberated. What makes it unique?
The most unique thing about it is that it's basically our take on revitalizing digital comics. Our goal is to give you an actual comic book reading experience intertwined with an action game. Basically it's you read an online comic nowadays, and it's basically a scan of the physical paper comic. We kind of figured, okay, we're already in a digital space. We've got all this processing power.
Yeah.
Why not do more? Why not make it more interactive and just more visceral and exciting?
Yeah.
So we're kind of calling this concept the playable graphic novel. And so Liberated is, it's our own IP, it's our own world, and it's our own creation. But the long game is to kind of create this new way of doing digital comics that isn't just copying what's on paper.
Right, where you get to control the action sequences of
Exactly,
the comic.
impact the storyline at points, just kind of keep you on your toes. Even something, as some digital comics do it, but even audio, is a really cool and big part of reading your comic. Because even if you don't have the voiceovers, there's still the soundtrack, the ambient sounds that kind of like really complete the entire experience.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like comic book 2.0.
Yeah. If you had to narrow down to one thing, what do you hope players get out of their time playing Liberated?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. What do I hope players get? Well, I think that would come down to the story that we're telling. Because the entire game it's a very grounded sort of noir cyberpunk.
Yeah.
We love the cyberpunk is now hashtag because that's sort of the vibe that we're going for. Like, look around you, we're already living in a grounded cyberpunk fiction.
Yeah.
And that's what our game focuses on. It's like this sort of authoritarian dystopia where people are being controlled and they don't even realize it, but nothing that's happening here is actually science fiction.
Yeah.
It's all around us, just not all in one place.
Right.
Cool. So I don't know. I kind of hope people see that and kind of consider it a little bit. But our story is also very much about, kind of fundamentally good human beings being locked in this messed up system that's like pitting them against each other and generating unnecessary conflict. So we're telling this story from like different points of view also, right? There's the authoritarian system. They're the liberated. They are the uprising, the revolution. And we're giving you both sides of the story. With no good guys. I don't want to say no bad guys because kind of they're all bad guys in a lot of ways but not because they are fundamentally bad, but because this is the situation they're forced into. They're like the victims of their circumstance. And I think in a lot of ways that's kind of real. So that's a really long answer to that one thing that I hope would resonate with others.
Very cool. And then, what drives you to make games? Why do you make games?
Well, I mean, oh my God, it's Liberated for me personally is it's important. On the one hand, because of what I said, because of its message and what it's trying to say. I think it's I guess I can kind of relate to this viewpoint personally. I'm happy that we can get this message out.
So you feel like that's a message that's like needed in our day and age in a way?
I think so. I think it's something that a lot of people don't really think about. That we don't want to think about it. That we as humans kind of need a bad guy. We need an enemy. And it's so much easier to think about the enemy as just kind of bad people. Maybe, perhaps, that's not always necessarily the case. Maybe it's external factors that have created this sort of person that is so opposite to what you value. I think in a lot of ways this game is just kind of like that people are like fundamentally good. They're just being manipulated and screwed up really badly. But also even the format itself, I think, is really inspiring. Like if we pull this off, if this goes beyond just Liberated, I really hope that we can kind of create this new age digital comic. That's exciting as hell to be part of that project. So for me, it's those two things. But I'm sure if you ask others on the team, they would probably have their own reasons to.
No, I appreciate that because I think it's like games tend to do this thing right. A lot of games do where we paint with really broad brushes. We give you really clear bad guys like zombies or masked villains that are clearly evil. But sometimes games aren't that great at helping us, have some empathy for those who we consider quote unquote bad guys. To think about how they landed there.
And I hope that's what we're doing. Like just to kind of give you an example, since we shift between characters in the story in each chapter. So you start off, right, as this bright young hacker who's being recruited into the Liberated, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna change the world. He's gonna fight for freedom, personal freedom, justice, freedom from being controlled and monitored all the time. There's this operation that they have to carry out, right? They're gonna wipe out the government servers that have all the data. It's like a synchronized operation, and of course it goes south. So they're out there doing the briefing. They're like, remember, guys, we're the good guys, right? We're the good guys. No casualties, nothing. And there's a lot of casualties. There's a ton of casualties. And then in chapter 2, you pick it up the story from the point of view of this grizzled old cop, who his job is to fight the terrorists, the insurgents, the people who have murdered countless, I guess sort of civilians. I don't know who's good in this scenario. I can't tell you that.
It's more complex than we think. That's great. I appreciate that perspective. It's cool. Well,
I really hope we do it right, because it's tough. It's tough to get this right, because even we, for all as much as we can try to be like neutral, even we have our own biases and our own. So I hope we do it right. I hope we do a good job.
Well, it looks really beautiful. It looks really cool. I'm excited to try it out. When can people expect to find this?
It's coming out in Q2 2020. We don't have like an exact release date. We had to delay the game once already, so now we're just like
predetermined.
We'll let you know when it's done.
Yeah, sure. Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's coming to Nintendo Switch first. We're focusing on it right now, and then PC shortly after.
Great.
Cool. So anyone who wants to follow us, Steam wishlist, social media, Liberated game.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks, Conrad.
Thank you.
Cool. And tell me your name again.
Yeah, it's Lindsay Rostel,
Okay. And what is your role on Red Lantern?
the game director and writer.
Great. And how long have you been working on this?
About 2 years.
Okay. Cool. And how long have you been in game design?
I've been in game development in various forms for about 10 years.
Okay,
So
cool.
doing producing and writing, and this is the first time I've really dove into design directly.
Cool. So how's that experience been for you?
Intimidating.
Yeah.
No, it's been a lot of fun. Try to learn from friends and other games and take a lot of feedback and make it as collaborative as possible. I'm very much willing to admit I don't know everything, and so I have pillars and things that I've wanted to accomplish from games that I've played and people that I want to have for an audience, and hopefully accomplish that way. So
That's great. And tell me about the Red Lantern. What makes it unique?
Well, it's a dog sledding game, and there's not many of those. We're trying to combine narrative in a roguelike context. So we want the player to have a story that they get to take with them, that is their journey through the story itself. I want you to make your choices based on sort of the resources that you have, and not you trying to game the thing you think I, as a writer, want you to choose.
Right.
And so find that story that's right for you, that's right for this playthrough, and that's right for the story you're ultimately telling is really exciting to me, and that's what I think stands out for it.
Yeah. Do you have an interest in the outdoors? Is that like a personal? That's obviously a big theme in this game.
A little bit. I think I've headed out more for adventure now as I've gotten older than I did as a kid. Went up to Alaska for a little bit for this, camped basically on a beach facing a glacier, cool. And that was pretty cool. Doing a big kayaking trip and stuff. I love nature, and I think it's important that we take a moment to recognize how cool it is. And if I can do that in a game and also inspire people to go out and check it out a little more, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. My wife and I actually have a trip planned to Alaska pretty soon, so we're gonna go to Anchorage and hopefully go up to Denali and in that area.
That's awesome. I didn't make it to Denali, but I want to get back up there to do that. I went south to Seward, where I went to a dog sledding kennel and rode on the back of a big cart, because it was in the summer with these dogs, and how strong they were was
insane. It was a car that weighed like 800 pounds and had 8 adults on it.
Oh, man.
And when it had the brake on and they were jumping at the end of the line, it was just shaking so aggressively. And I'm like, this is nuts. And then we went down into Homer and went halibut fishing and a bunch of stuff and like camping down there and spent some time in like a yurt in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
it's great. Alaska's
that's awesome.
It's a good spot.
Yeah, I'm excited. Anyway, that's very cool. So, if you had to narrow it down to one thing that you hope players gain out of their experience playing the Red Lantern, what would it be?
I hope, they take a moment of joy with the dogs, really. I mean, I hope they have a connection with them and they get to find their favorite. Like, if everybody comes away like, this was my dog, like this one feels like me or feels like the dog I already have, that'll be awesome for me because I've pulled from dogs that I know and, want to know. And I hope that people get to take that with them too, where it feels true to the behaviors they know.
Yeah, that's great. And last question I like to ask designers is, why do you make games? What drives you to do this?
I think it's important to help people experience things that we wouldn't normally experience. And I think stories and games help people have experiences with emotions that maybe you wouldn't have to have in regular life. Like the conceit in this game where you never fully fail. You wake up from a nightmare imagining all the terrible things that can happen to you. Like that's a part of life, and I think it's important that we think about those things and how we can become more prepared as we experience these.
Yeah, that's cool. And when can people look to see the game?
It'll be out later this year. We'll announce the actual date a little closer to launch.
And I heard you saying Switch and PC.
Switch, PC on the Epic Games Store, and then we'll be on Xbox for Xbox Game Pass as well.
Okay, great, cool. Well, it's really beautiful, and I'm excited to see the final product before too long. So, awesome. Thanks for showing it to me.
Yeah, thanks for playing it.
Absolutely. So, Corey Martin, you're from Montreal, you were telling me, and you've been making games for about 10 years, you said. And your first game was tell me about the first game, I'm sorry.
Well, my first commercial game was Pipe Push Paradise. It's a simple, like easy to pick up, really minimal controls. You like move around, but it's really difficult and it's really a really lean game and packed with some surprising ideas and tough puzzles.
Yeah, and so you're telling me that experience of making a grid-based puzzle game kind of led you to make Bonfire Peaks in a way. Like you thought it would be the only you thought Pipe Burst would be the only puzzle game that you made, but now you're making another game. What kind of led you to do that?
Well, I still would like to explore other types of games and try other things, but once you finish a game in a one specific lane, you build some skills and you learn how to make that kind of game, and it's tempting to be like, well, what can I do with this format? And it's a very different game, but it's still grid-based puzzle game because I really like those constraints. I think it lead to a lot of puzzles kind of naturally arising out of the format.
So tell me the gist of Bonfire Peaks. What is it? What makes it unique?
So it's a game about attachment and nostalgia and not being able to let go of the past. And that's represented by you taking these crates of your personal possessions and setting them on fire.
Yeah. Is that something you have personal experience with?
Yeah, I have I still have a CD collection in my closet.
Yeah.
So it's a sentimental attachment is a problem for me. And thankfully I have a partner that she doesn't have that problem at all, and so she does a good job of
pressuring you to...
Well, she's really good at getting us down to the essential collection,
Yeah. I have a similar experience. I have a weird, I have this big CD collection too, and I'm like, what if I want to listen to those one day, And I never will, but...
Well, part of it is also that you're like, there was so much time and love invested in building that, and you just don't want it to be over, I guess, or something. I don't know. It's irrational because obviously I'm never going to play any of them again. Also, I have Spotify. Very few albums in my CD collection are not on Spotify. It's not really something I need for any reason, but it is what it is. It's just it's an irrational thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I found like my wife's kind of that way. She's kind of the one that's like, no, we really need to we're not going to play these board games, so we need to give them to someone who will play them or get rid of them. And I don't like to admit it a lot, but she's usually right. But there's something freeing, I think, about like letting go of stuff, because our stuff can start to control us in a way, or like limit our freedom, our happiness. I think is that part of the experience you hope?
I think so. I think any time that I've brought a box of stuff to Goodwill or whatever, I've never regretted it.
Yeah.
So it's something that it's just a hurdle to get past, right? But but yeah, like if you're a sentimental person, it's sometimes hard to even persuade yourself, even when you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you provide that kind of feeling, that kind of experience for players in a digital space?
Well, I mean, at its core, I think it's just, I hope, a solid puzzle game.
Yeah.
And that's the most important element. And then there's just a personal layer kind of painted over it, just to make it a little bit more special and a little bit more meaningful to me.
Yeah.
And if that resonates with players, then great. Because I think there's no harm in having more personal games out there. And but yeah, that's the thing. At the bottom line is it's like a solid puzzle game with unique puzzles. It's like the focus is on making it really lean and not wasting the player's time with like kind of samey repetitions.
Yeah, cool. And if you had to narrow it down to one thing, what do you hope players gain from their time playing Bonfire Peaks?
Wow. I mean, I hope delight.
Yeah. Sure.
I think for some people, puzzle games lead to frustration, and that's the last thing I want people to feel. I hope they feel invited to progress in this game, and they feel like I, as the creator, am like, I want you to succeed, and also that they shouldn't feel bad for failing, because it's a crucial part of getting through these games. I'm luring you to make mistakes at every turn. And some people, when they make one mistake, they think, oh, I'm so bad at these games. But that's just how everyone plays those games. It just comes down to whether or not you can enjoy being stuck and being stumped.
Yeah.
Which I completely get that for some people, it's like, I want unbroken progress,
Right,
you know?
Yeah, I want you to hold my hand the whole way. But there's a little bit of, or less, I think, maybe satisfaction from that kind of experience sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, some things are like, there's some types of things, like if you're really good at racing games and you pick up a new racing game, you should be able to play reasonably well right away. And there's some things that it's like, it feels natural that you can pick it up and it's instinctual, and you're making good progress pretty quickly. So I think there's room for both things. I'm definitely not if a game's not difficult, it's not good kind of person, but I do like difficult games, and hopefully people who check this game out are also have an interest in a hard game.
Definitely. And last question I like to ask designers is, why do you make games? What drives you to do this?
I love video games. I love puzzle games. It's the most exciting medium to me, in part because it's so young, and I feel like we have no idea what we can do with this thing yet. That's really exciting to me. Things like even movies being 100 years old has like a huge head start on us. Music, forget about it, painting and so forth. So video games being this really young, really immature medium, I think I'm really excited to see where it goes, and I want to be a part of it. Yeah,
that's cool. So you said you're really drawn to puzzle games. It's kind of your jam. Is there like a puzzle game that's your like favorite? This was sort of like an inspiration to you. There's
a few I always name drop. One is like my games owe a lot to is this game, Steven's Sausage Roll.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's a phenomenal puzzle game that can be a little bit unfriendly to the player every now and then, but it's each puzzle is far more interesting than it is difficult, which is impressive because it's incredibly difficult. So that's always, I think, crucial, that as long as something's really difficult, as it has to be at least as interesting as it is difficult, and that game definitely delivers. The Witness, I loved a lot. That's
another super easy puzzle game.
Yeah, exactly. But again, has a nice format of letting you walk away from puzzles and try different ones. You always have a lot of options of what to do. So if you're banging your head against something, you can try something else. I really like that format, and that's why I do that in my games as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could list games all day. There's designers like Alan Hazelden, Jack Lance, Lucas Laslow. These people are just like doing incredible work all the time in this medium, and I'm always excited to see what they do next.
Yeah, cool. Well, I really enjoyed checking out Bonfire Peaks. There's some really clever puzzles just in the early stages, and when can we expect to see it?
It's coming to Steam in May and possibly other places later.
Okay, great.
So Steam, Humble Store, and Itch.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and so I guess now I should probably go home and dig up that CD collection and find something to do with it. All right,
I'll do the same.
Yeah, thanks, man. So Marlo,
yes,
you just go by the one name.
Marlo Doby. Doby's my last name.
I figured you had one.
Yeah, right.
So what is your role with Floppy Nights and Garden Story?
So Garden Story, I'm hands off. Garden Story is being developed by a solo developer, Picogram, and with music by Graham Nesbitt. So Rose City Games is actually co-publishing that.
Yeah.
And Pico works out of our office, so it's really fun. They're kind of part of the team and everything. And then with Floppy Nights, I'm much more hands-on. I'm the creative director, and I'm doing all the art and animation.
Okay, great. So tell me about Floppy Nights, what makes it unique?
So Floppy Nights is kind of a mashup of a tactical, top-down tactics game with deck building. So if you're into games like Advance Wars or Fire Emblem, and also deck building games like Dominion, it's sort of like a marriage of those two. And I haven't actually seen at least a lot of examples of people doing this type of tactics with deck building before, and adding that element of randomness into it. Because you see a lot of stuff like tower defense card games, or just deck building games in general and RPGs. But yeah, we wanted to take a couple flavors of games that we really loved and see what would happen if they had a very cute baby together.
Is that your jam, deck building card games?
Oh yeah, personally, those are the type of games I really like to play. That was a big sort of inspiration and push for this game, was making a type of game that we would really like to play. So yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah, I used to be really, really into Dominion, and in fact, I just dug out all my cards recently and started getting back into it. I forgot how great that game is.
It's a very good one. It's that feeling of no matter how you're playing it, you're progressing in some way. Is something I really, really like in video games. It's just no matter what, you're slowly, incrementally building to your end goal, and whatever turn you take feels good.
Sure. Yeah. So even if you don't win, you feel I know how to build that better next time.
Yep, absolutely. And we've actually seen that a lot on the floor, where the first level is very tutorialized, and the second a handful of people won't make it through because they'll charge right in with their main unit and lose it. But the second time they play it, they always win the second time, because it's I've figured out the strategy and kind of figure it out on their own.
If you had to narrow down to one thing, what do you hope players gain from their time with Floppy Nights?
I think just the really good brain feeling you get when you play tactics games like Advance Wars, but having it be super duper accessible, so everything on the screen, all your information is there, and you're really able to understand it and pick it up without us having to hold your hand with it. So yeah, I find that when I'm playing too, it's just I'm getting that really fun brain feeling of what are all my different options when I have all these resources in front of me, and I get to dole them out, and that's what I really like about those games.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what drives you to make games? Why do you do this?
I think that just being part of a wave of indie developers and more diverse people making games is really important, just like at a base level. It's really exciting to see all these new voices, but also just like making the type of games I want to play. Like if a game doesn't exist, we get to try and make it.
Yeah.
And also just being able to sort of like put stuff out there that, you know, hopefully one day like people will enjoy it or maybe inspire them also to do the same thing is like, kind of the dream.
Yeah, very cool. And how long have you been doing this, making games?
About 2.5 years, 3 years.
Okay.
I graduated out of college in 2016 and just did illustration freelance for a while, but I've been working full time with Rose City since January of last year, and before that I was doing like freelance game stuff like Dicey Dungeons and stuff like that for a little while before.
Cool. Well, the art style is really fun in this game. It was great in Dicey Dungeons too, but really fun, like inviting, I think. Art style that doesn't like it's not this oppressive like
it's
dark
not doom and gloom, right? Yeah, that's actually like a really interesting, like it's really fun for me to apply that to these types of games. So like with Dicey, like there's not a lot of roguelikes that look like that, and I would say there's not a lot of tactics games that look like Floppy Nights. And we actually like have had like a ton of kids come and play the game like yesterday and like so far during PAX, and their parents will come and help them out and like walk them through levels and stuff. But that's really cool to see that just like the eye-catchingness of it is really accessible to like a large group of people.
Cool. And then tell me a little bit about Garden Story real quick. What do you hope players gain out? I know that's not your game, but you're helping with it. What do you hope players gain out of their experience with that game?
I think that there's like really interesting messages in Garden Story. So there's this sort of like meta of environmentalism and helping out your town, and Concord's like the last guardian left. So I think there's like a really good feeling about like there's a lot of progression in that game. You're sort of getting the like good feelings of playing like farming simulators like Animal Crossing. It's like very relaxing to play, but also has like a really good community message at the same time. Cool. So just like mixing up like that fun kind of relaxing and action gameplay, but also at the same time just like having a very feel-good theme around all of it.
Yeah, definitely. And so we didn't talk very much about that one. So that one is Zelda influence, like RPG or sort of like action RPG type game.
It's very much like influenced by Zelda and Zelda-like games, as well as like, like what I mentioned, like farming simulators, like Animal Crossing, and like, it's interesting to see that mix of like the actual kind of action gameplay that you get from the more Zelda parts, where you're actually like doing some combat, mixed with the like walking through a peaceful town and talking to your neighbors and like doing little jobs for them and checking in on them and stuff.
Very cool. Well, cool. Both games look really, really nice. When can we expect to see these games out?
So Garden Story's window, spring 2020.
Okay.
And then Floppy Nights is just 2020. We just announced, like, we released a trailer a couple weeks ago, so we're really early on. So there's a lot of cool avenues we can look at with this one. And
great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for your time, Marla.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right, I'm with Astrid, and tell me how to say your last name again.
Astrup.
Okay, great. That's exactly how I was going to say it. So, tell me about Welcome to Elk. What makes it unique?
So, Welcome to Elk is a game based on true stories. We of course created a narrative around it, but a lot of the games, like the mini games in the games, are based on stories my brother told from Greenland and California. We also post those stories online, so you can read them before the game is out, even like without any spoilers.
And the game has a really unique art style. Tell me about that. What are you trying to evoke?
So the art style is made by Murray Sommerwolf. He's our art director. He was very inspired by BoJack Horseman. So something that's like realistic and funny and can show like the more like harsh sides of life at the same time. And then we wanted the game to be to easily communicate like when you can interact with something or not. So that's why we have like the white with black outlines and then only colors on the stuff you can interact with.
What I played was pretty, like the story was pretty heavy. Is that what we can expect for most of the game, or is there some humor as well?
it's a good mix. So of course, in the demo build, we want to show what the range in the game. So there's like fun little jokes in the beginning. You are doing a karaoke game. You are singing songs, having fun, and in the end, you see sort of like the more tragic or darker side of the game.
Yeah.
But it's a balance. It's not only those like very heavy stories. We have only very few of those.
Yeah.
And then everything in between, from like pouring a beer and laughing with your friends to this. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you had to narrow down to one thing, what do you hope players get out of their experience playing Welcome to Elk?
I hope they make the stories their own story, and that they're gonna tell it to their friends and family.
Yeah. And remind me, I meant to ask this at the front of the podcast, but what is your role on the game?
So I'm the co-writer together with Mary, and all of us is like game directing, and then I'm producer. That's why I'm here.
What do you hope, like, or I mean, sorry, with the look of the game is, and these like, the music and stuff is very, it was really beautiful.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious what the response so far has been to the game.
So far, if you only play the beginning, people are like, it's funny, they're laughing and smiling about the jokes together. And then in the end, sometimes people cry.
Yeah.
Which first time I showcased it, of course we designed it in a way we wanted to touch people, and we want them to relate to the story. And we cried designing it, but we didn't expect that people would be in a showcase and crying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that must mean that you've created something, poignant and powerful.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, it's great. It's really unique. I don't think I've played anything quite like it, so I really enjoyed checking it out. Thanks for your time. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So I'm here with Philip Shane, and you're a documentarian, a filmmaker. How would you describe yourself?
Yeah, a documentary filmmaker.
Yeah. Documentarian has a different vibe to it.
It sounds very above my pay grade. Yeah.
So you've had some pretty successful documentaries. Tell us a little bit about some of the things you've done.
Yeah. So probably the documentary I worked on that people know the most is I was the co-director of a documentary called Being Elmo, which was directed by my friend Connie Marks. And that is the story of the puppeteer who behind Elmo.
Yeah.
And is an amazing, just really powerful, sweet story. And it's not just him, but like the whole Sesame Street, the whole world, and the history of Sesame Street and Jim Henson and stuff like that. Another one people may have seen is I did a documentary. I produced and directed a documentary for History Channel called Einstein, which is about the one Einstein you've heard about, which was really fun. I've had the great fortune to work on a number of documentaries about inspiring people of all kinds in both science, like Einstein, and the arts. I got to work with Paul McCartney. I edited a documentary with him called Wingspan about his life and his family's life after the Beatles. And so I've done a lot of...
Yeah, most of us have heard of Paul McCartney.
You've heard of him, yeah.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was that like getting to meet and work with him?
It was incredible. I mean, I was working in his house in New York, his New York house. I worked with him and his daughter Mary and her husband at the time, Alistair Donald. It was amazing because he kind of hear this. Hopefully, you hear this about celebrities. They're just like a normal person, really sweet guy. And he was really, really down to earth and very kind and generous with his time. And
very cool.
Cool guy.
Well, some of our listeners might be wondering, why is Drew talking to a filmmaker? Because this is a podcast where we normally talk to people in the games industry, but you're essentially entering the games industry. So you've got a new documentary you're working on about Myst. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Myst is, for those of you who knew it, if you played Myst, I know that you are smiling right now.
Yeah.
When I meet people and I say, if you've heard of Myst, I always see a big smile. I grew up playing Myst when it came out. It came out in 1993, and it blew my mind. Obviously, I was very much into movies as well, and into games at the time. And for me, Myst was, for games, video games, what Star Wars was for movies. Like, it was just so rich and so engrossing, at the music and the sound and the design and the look.
Expanded people's minds about what a video game could be, I think, maybe.
For sure.
Yeah.
It was three-dimensional textures, and it didn't yet, you weren't yet able to move in, like, for instance, now we have open world games.
Yeah.
But this was a step along that direction. It was a three-dimensional world. You could turn and look at it, and just it was also a work of art.
Yeah.
I mean, it just felt that way for any number of reasons. All the elements kind of coming together, and it integrated video, which was a new thing at the time, and it was an incredible thing.
And a very well, thoughtfully built world.
Yeah.
That they envisioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not that I'm against it, but no killing, no clock, no ticking clock, it was just
didn't contain a lot of those things that we tend to think of as like staples of successful video games, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting, actually. And again, I feel like if you connected with it, you felt a special connection, because there was so few things like this, in that the adrenaline, in a way, like a first-person shooter comes with its own adrenaline.
Yeah,
it's given, or a racing game, or any of those things. The adrenaline in this game comes from, if you have it, that desire to solve that puzzle.
Yeah,
and when you do, a whole nother part of the world opens. So anyway, but the really a big part of the story, a fascinating story to me, was the original game came with a behind-the-scenes video on it, and just a sneak video onto those CD-ROMs. It was a tiny little square on the screen, and you can watch it. It was a few minutes long, and you got to meet the creators. This is something that maybe it happens more now, but like
it definitely wasn't common in the 90s.
No,
for sure.
You wouldn't. Why would even for movies, it doesn't. You don't get a movie and then maybe on DVDs you got director's track or something. But here you saw them. It was a little bit like the making of.
Yeah.
And I always loved making of type documentaries, and here you met the guys, and they just looked so cool, and they were really like independent artists. This wasn't. I mean, I loved Atari games, but that was a giant company and things like that.
And at the time too, it was one of the best-selling games, or the best-selling game of the 90s.
It became the best-selling game for 9 years.
Yeah.
From 1993 till 2002, I believe. Knocked out of the top slot, or off the charts anyway, by The Sims.
Yeah.
So that's how big it was.
Yeah. So if you don't know what Myst is, if you're listening to this and you don't know what Myst is, and you're like a big gamer, this is like an opportunity to educate yourself. Like, this is a game you should know about, because it's been so massively influential.
It is. In fact, my cinematographer, Kyle Kelly, who I've been working with, we've done some filming. We're doing a Kickstarter this year.
Yeah.
We're going to be raising more money. We'll be able to jump in more earnest. But Kyle is in his late 20s, I believe, and we were walking around Spokane, which is where the guys lived when they were making the game, and some of them still are there. And I just wanted to film things that felt like they came out of the game. So, like, here's a rusty pipe, here's a giant gear, here's a big lever, and these industrial artifacts and stuff like that. And I said, oh, look at that, that's so Myst, film that. Look at that, that's like right out of Myst. And he said, after about an hour of doing this, he's like, every time you say that's so Myst, I think to myself, Kyle says, it's just like it's just a video game, something out of a video game. And then I realized that is, that's kind of there is so much in today's world that began with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say that, basically they were taking, gears and ladders and moving platforms and all that was all part of games before, but they were, in moving into the third dimension, they turned those things into like a whole nother experience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And how is this, I mean, because this is about a video game, and I think I don't think this way, But there are people out there that go like, oh, why would you make like video games in many people's minds are trivial, and just something we do to pass the time or to escape, and we think of them as not that important to our everyday lives or whatever. How would you defend the value of making a documentary about something that people think of that way?
Well, it's interesting to say that because I working in film, and I grew up studying film, and I went to film school. And when you study the history of film, you see the same kind of thing. People thought films were trivial, commercial kinds of things, especially before television. It was basically the equivalent of television until these crazy young hippies in France decided that Jerry Lewis was a genius. And anyway, film has since gone through a transformation. And one thing people do know, if you can relate to that, when we think of film, generally, if you're going to think of art films, there are definitely like Hollywood films, and certain, like Steven Spielberg, I think you could say, is somebody who totally commercial, full-on Hollywood, big blockbuster movies, but also crosses over into art. But even within that, there is really an art film. We literally have theaters called art theaters, where you go and you see. And I don't think there's any argument now that film is definitely can be an art. And I think video games have been struggling with this since the beginning. Right. Certainly in the days of the silent movies, there were filmmakers who felt this is an art. Same thing with the early video game people now. I think the difference is, though, and I would say this about the documentary, and I feel like this relates a little bit to your site. The video games are and can be works of art, and certainly can be approached that way if they're. But the people who make them are definitely artists. Yeah. Artists, regardless of whether they're making, AAA Call of Duty or something like that. The craft and the talent that goes into it is very artistic. So it's really I think when people get to know the people behind it. Yeah. And you start to see their devotion to it and what goes into it, you will start to get that feeling. Yeah.
Cool. And give us a sense of what you hope to accomplish with the documentary. What is it that makes the Myth story worth telling?
The begins with the two brothers, Rand and Robin Miller, who made this game. And they worked with a small group of fellow friends and colleagues and even other family members. And they were living and working in a double-wide trailer, a mobile home, in the woods outside of Spokane, Washington. Yeah. Which is already that's kind of like outside of outside. Triple layers of outside.
Yeah. Other than Seattle, nobody knows anything about Washington.
Yeah, I think even if you said Spokane, most people wouldn't, if they heard the name at all, wouldn't know what state it was in. Yeah. And the Great Northwest. And they had made games before for kids and wanted to make something more ambitious, and they found a developer through Japan, actually, that gave them the opportunity to make something a little bit more sophisticated, and they jumped at it. And they did what great artists or of any kind, whether they're musicians or filmmakers or painters or playwrights, whatever, they wanted to make something that just came from their heart and was basically the kind of game and the kind of world they wanted to be in. And they poured their soul into that. Very few people had heard of them, even in the business. Some of their kids' games had been a little bit successful, but the video game world was incredibly tiny then. Yeah. Next thing they know, they have the biggest game in the world. It's hard to imagine that transformation. When it came time for they were working on their sequel, they wound up on stage with Steve Jobs. Yeah. I mean, you can imagine going from this to that.
From a trailer.
Yeah, from a trailer, right? Yeah. And so it's certainly a dream that a lot of people have, and it's but there's a purity. I don't want to get too cheesy about it, but there's a purity to that kind of vision and that kind of work ethic and that kind of focus. Yeah. And they are really great representatives of what I would call the indie spirit. Yeah. Again, in all forms. They could have worked their way up and wound up working for gigantic companies, but that wouldn't allow them to do the vision and to be as creative as they could. And they stuck through that. Yeah, so that's it. And there's one other side to the documentary. There's a number of other sides, but one in particular is that I grew up at the same time this game came out, and this is all Myst, and the making of Myst is part and parcel of the entire PC revolution, the home computer revolution. And I think that those of us who lived through it kind of, I'm sure we're all amazed by it and appreciate it. But like so many things that happen so fast, few documentaries have taken the time to slow down and say, hang on a second, what happened there?
Yeah.
All these incredible things happened. And the two brothers represent sort of different sides of it. Rand, the older brother, was really into computers and hardware and programming. His younger brother, Robin, was really an artist, considered himself, he was thinking of being a painter or a composer or a filmmaker, something like that. Just the tech side of computers was not something interesting to him. And suddenly the Macintosh, Rand had bought a Mac, one of the very first Macs, came and landed on the desk. And Robin sat down in it and immediately felt at home. He's like, oh, this is something I can draw on.
Yeah.
I can do art. And that is how they got started making games. So I would like to meet, there's unheralded people in big stories is something I like to focus on, just like the puppeteers of Sesame Street. Who was that?
Yeah.
You never see them. So there are guys like Bill Atkinson who created HyperCard, which is an incredible graphic programming tool that they used. There are other people that were key players in creating the tools that wound up in the hands of the Millers brothers who made Myst. And I want to go back and meet some of those people so you can feel the... But I think of it as almost as like inputs. So those are inputs, things that come from like Silicon Valley and Japan and other places, into the little trailer. They make it, they transform it into Myst. Myst then goes out and is played by people all over the world.
Yeah.
And all those people are inspired. And I've met a number of those fans who are still devoted to it, some of whom, a whole lot of whom, went into the world of art or graphic design or things like that.
Yeah.
Inspired by Myst. So inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
Kind of the thing there.
This may be hard to answer because I know there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
But
I can do these more concise too if you feel like
no, this is great.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
If you had to narrow it down to one thing, what do you hope people who see the documentary get out of their experience?
I hope people come out of it having spent time alongside and even in the hearts and minds of the people who make the technology that they use and perhaps, make the games or some of the things that they're entertained by. And then continue to use these tools that we all live in, which are basically, if you know nothing about them, they just seem like magic.
Yeah.
But to know the magicians who put it together, I feel like ultimately you could never underestimate the need to put the humanity, to reveal the humanity inside the technology. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And these are people who are you can't say they're not successful. They do okay by themselves, but like the public really doesn't know them and appreciate them.
Right.
And I think you will then have a whole different feeling about it. And frankly, for those of us who are, if you're a geek, or you're a nerd, you are a gamer or whatever, and you play these things, like you're kind of dying to know who these people are and what are they.
Right.
And I think the thing that'll be surprising to people is whether you are supercomputer nerd, super gamer, or just ordinary person who enjoys life in this world, I think you'll be amazed how you can connect to these people you never heard of, and that's important. Connection is a big part of it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then last question I like to ask creatives, people in the games industry, which you now are.
Yeah, I guess so.
but why do you do what you do? In your case, it's making films, documentaries. What motivates the work that you do?
I get to learn, and I get to vicariously, sometimes literally or sometimes vicariously through the magic of videotape or old movies, spend time with people who are incredible to me. And that's like an incredible experience to me. So I love watching documentaries. I love learning about people. I get to kind of go visit and hang out, with these people and be inspired by them. The other thing is I get a tremendous satisfaction from kind of being a translator I can, the whole job of the documentary, one of the big jobs of the documentary filmmaker is to take something that's perhaps even boring to people, let alone complicated, and translate that. Someone's life is real. How do you capture an entire life and convey a sense of the person? Well, we get to do that and share it with people. So I feel like I get to be a bridge between the general public and very special people who are unknown, and kind of, again, connect these people in a way that's powerful. And ultimately with documentaries too, it can change the lives of people, which is pretty powerful. Now, all movies can too, but certainly some documentaries you can really make a difference. The people you see in documentaries, you can then actually go meet and learn about yourself, or maybe you want to enter that world.
Right.
So,
I
enjoy that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, Philip, it was fascinating talking to you, and I'm really excited to see how this develops. And I know you're getting ready to do a Kickstarter. When will that be? Live?
So we have a Kickstarter coming later this year. I don't have a fixed date at the moment, but please stay tuned. You can go to themistdocumentary.com, the website. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. And keep in touch. And by the way, we're looking for anybody who, if you played Myst or have any stories or things like that, I'm just really interested in hearing from you. And share images you got, stories you got, things like that. Contact us.
Yeah. So if people want to follow the film, what's the best way to do that?
The website's about to go up, but I would say go to themistdocumentary.com.
Okay.
Or go find us on Twitter, which is at themistdoc.
Okay.
DOC.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
And if people want to follow you specifically, your work.
Yes. If you want to reach me directly, my website as a director is philipshane.com. That's Philip with one L. I always say it's all my parents could afford. Shane, S-H-A-N-E, .com.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Well, it was great talking to you. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Humans of Gaming with one-off interviews from PAX East 2020. Drew and Chris will be back next week with more guests, continuing our 10-episode series, Women in Gaming. Be sure to check us out on the web at lovethynerd.com. And if you enjoyed this show, as always, please take just a moment to like, share, subscribe to wherever podcasts are distributed. We rely on you to get the word out that we exist and that we are hoping to feature more and more developers and content creators and keep featuring the things that we find important in this industry.